Welcome back to Flutter University. So I've been away for a minute. My channel was suspended, but I'm back like I never left. So while I was away, I was going through Riverpod. I used Riverpod for my personal projects, and I found it to be really interesting. So I thought I could do tutorials on that. So this is just an introduction, but yeah, let's go to the documentation. So Riverpod is a reactive caching and data binding framework. So basically, if you know me from a personal point, from a personal level, you will know that I was a huge block person. I used block for like everything. I hadn't really tried anything else up to about 2 months ago when I came across Riverpod, and I found it to be really interesting. And yeah, I felt like I should do tutorials on it. So yeah, it enables you. One of the major things that drew me to Riverpod is that you don't need to. I know it's a simple thing, but you don't really need to declare the multi-block providers or the multi-providers everywhere. And also, Riverpod is among the recommended state management approaches with Flutter. So yeah, so let's get started. So in this tutorial, I'll just create a simple counter application, and yeah, we'll see from there. So open your terminal, Flutter create. I just create the app on the desktop. I'll call it Riverpod tutorials. So here it is. Let me open Visual Studio Code on that folder. Very nice. So when I run this application, let me just run it on my Mac. Let me just run it on macOS. Let me increase my font so that it might be a little bit visible. So yeah, I think the first application that's normally generated by Flutter is the count application, and we'll go on to recreate that. So we'll go on to recreate this application without using setState, but with Riverpod. So yeah, hope you're excited. So let's get started. First of all, first things first, you have to install your Riverpod dependency. So I have this extension called PubSpec Assist, which enables me add packages without really going to the browser. There it is, it's added. PubGet. Everything is generated. So I'll just delete everything and create a new application. Let me say. Also, I'm using GitHub Copilot, which I've become so fond of late. So let's create my app widget. Let it return material app, home, so let's create the home page here. Typo, let me rename it. Let's return an empty container, and let's import the home page. So running this application, will just be presented with an empty container as the app. So we'll go ahead and implement. Also, guys, always remember to follow the lint rules, just to make your code more organized. So let's just return a scaffold. Copilot, GitHub Copilot has generated the code for me. We'll also add the floating action button on pressed child lint rules, guys. Let's remember lint rules. So in future tutorials like from this series, we'll cover tests. We'll cover basically everything in Riverpod, just to make sure that whoever's going through these tutorials will get a complete understanding of how Riverpod works, and basically, yeah, which is not any different from any other state management option. Yeah, let's run the app again, see how it changes. I think I should run it on a phone, because most of you guys are developing these apps for phones. So yeah, let me just start my simulator. Okay, let me run on my iPhone 13 Pro simulator. Waiting. How long will it take? Xcode build. Meanwhile, while it's building, okay, it's installing. There it is. The application we just created, the count application. So every time this button will be pressed, we'll have to update the UI here. So let's go back to the home page. Let's create a new provider. Let's say let's create a class counter provider which extends set identifier. Let's create the missing overrides. So basically, Riverpod GitHub Copilot really helps to generate code for me, and for Flutter it's working perfectly. I think you guys should try it out. So we should, after creating the provider, we should also declare global provider, which will make it accessible from anywhere in the app. So yeah, state notifier provider, which returns. That's how you define it. Let's also give it a type. Let's give it a type. What is it called? A counter, and it's whatever it holds. Okay, so saving that, we go back to our home page and change this text. Let's say button pressed 0 times, but for this 0, let's bind that Riverpod value. So we'll use we'll have to introduce the consumer widget. So a consumer widget, basically, let's just go to the Riverpod documentation. So a consumer widget basically gives you a reference, a widget reference, which will allow you to will give you access to these providers from whichever widget you'll be using. So if you extend a widget, for example, a consumer widget, a consumer widget is just a stateless widget which has that widget ref, which will help you reference different providers on your app. So we'll change this to a consumer widget to make sure that this homepage extends a consumer widget. Then at the build function, we'll have to return a widget like that. Then from here we can use that ref. Then we'll pass in the provider. Just like that. We'll remove the constant value and make the correct input. So we'll see an error that we have a bad state, no provider scope found. So one of the good things about Riverpod, you won't have to nest every single provider or block you'll have to create. So I'll just wrap this material app with a provider scope, and this will ensure that every provider will create will just be referenced automatically without really having to define the multi-block. I think if you've done provider, if you've used provider or block, you'll understand what I'm saying. So there it is. So once I type on this button, nothing's happening. It's because we haven't placed the onPressed method there. So here I'll just call that increment method. But since the increment method, let's just go back to provider. Since the increment method is part of the counter provider